Got involved with survivors of suicide loss here in San Diego. I went to a meeting right off the bat because my twin brother had schizoaffective disorder. And for years, I was like his personal therapist because we were twins. So he would tell me all of his deepest, darkest thoughts, all of his delusions, and I was kind of like his check.
I respect you as a martial artist, which I appreciate. You instead of just burying your head and forgetting about it, you decided to, get involved and speak a lot more about it. It's something a lot of people are terrified to even talk about. Because I think a lot of ways this whole Indestructible Joy came from me, is birthed from just my own anxiety and pain and just hate of the world and just complete uncomfortability in my own skin. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. Indestructible Joy. Got a great guest with me today. Today's a little bit, you got to talk about both sides. I talk a little about suicide. And this is someone that I've known, 15? His name is Will Deutschendorf. I said that right?
Yeah, you said it right.
I know him as Mr. Will. Him and his twin brother I've known for, I think, 15 years or something like that.
Something like that, yeah, pretty close.
Him and his twin taught Kempo karate at the school I took my kids to for years. I even built a little jiu-jitsu program there for a while, West Coast Jiu-Jitsu on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Those were the good old days.
And, one of the things I respect about you most before we get going is that you all this incredible Kempo karate skills, but didn't really understand jiu-jitsu or know it, but jumped right in and were like, okay, I got to learn this too. And I always respect when a martial artist, embraces other styles and just as because it's a never-ending, never-learning thing. So just wanted to let you know, first off, I respect you as a martial artist. I still don't even really remember. It was kind of a shocking kind of thing to go through, even from the outskirts I was at. But I got a call from Will one day, and I couldn't quite understand what he was saying, but he was saying, hey, found my brother. He was this, that, and the other, and something, and kind of hanging was laced in there. And I was like, wait a minute. And I'm thinking in my mind, where's he at now? Is it, I didn't even get. And then once I got it, it was just a shock. And I realized, I'm sure, obviously you're in a total shock yourself as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Who knows what I said when I called you?
Yeah. I just remember thinking, it's one of those things. And it was coming out of, a lot of years of ministry, working for a church. And I always wish I had the answers for stuff like that. When something comes like that, because I don't have any words, you know what I mean? There's nothing to make something like that better, but kind of there through the process, did the funeral.
And I appreciated that because it's so hard to find someone who's willing to help you do a celebration of life or a service or something and meet you where you're at. And no one in my family wanted a funeral, but they did want to celebrate his life. Yeah. And I know people who've lost someone to suicide who wait a year before they even do a service because they don't know what to do.
Don't know how to handle. Yeah.
They might have they have someone lined up who would, but it's a suicide. And they're like, it's not really the same thing. The church kind of handles it differently. Oh. And I feel so bad for those people. Yeah. So it was great that I knew you and knew that you'd be able to handle something like that. So I appreciated that. I always have.
It's not things I'm looking to handle, but anyway, it was, I'm telling you because I've done a bunch of funerals, but that one in particular, I just remember thinking, because you guys were so young, that I always respected. You guys were entrepreneurs at a very young age. I mean, you guys owned the place at like 20, 21 years old, whatever you were.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking these guys, because it's not easy to run a business and have a business. And they just decided not to have a job and do that and go all martial arts, which is a great path. And I just remember thinking, through this whole process about your brother and thinking, man, this was so temporary. This was, and it always is, from the first experience I had with suicide when I was, I guess, 14, I look back and I think about that girl now. Her name was Michelle Money. And I think, man, so much has happened since then. We were in high school, 15 years old. So it was just, I just, if because I've talked to a lot of different people that are suicidal through the years as a pastor at a church. I get hot cases all the time. And I can remember, I don't have any skill. You know what I mean? All I can do is, man, and I just started galvanizing this, just not today. Just push it forward, because it's going to pass no matter how good or how bad it is. But anyway, as a result of that, you've gotten involved in, which I appreciate, you instead of just burying your head and forgetting about it, you decided to, get involved and speak a lot more about it. It's something a lot of people are terrified to even talk about. It's, it's one of those things that people who, it's just one of those things that, people are scared to even come around, but you're turning and heading towards it. And so tell us a little bit about what
Yeah,
what
of
it caused you
course.
to do.
And people are afraid of that term, like copycat suicide. Like they're worried the more you talk about something like this, the more it's going to happen. Well, as you could probably imagine, if you're not thinking about killing yourself, you're not going to see something like that and just, oh my God, why didn't I think of that?
Right.
What a great idea. That's not how that works.
Right.
You got to be in a pretty dark place for something like that to even cross your mind. So yeah, I got involved with survivors of suicide loss here in San Diego. I went to a meeting right off the bat because my twin brother had schizoaffective disorder. And for years, I was like his personal therapist because we were twins. So he would tell me all of his deepest, darkest thoughts, all of his delusions, and I was kind of like his check to be like, no, that's a delusion. No, the Tiger Claw Masters are not talking to you from the shrine. Stuff like that, where it's like seems ridiculous, but to him, when you're that mentally ill, like there's not really, you can't trust your own thoughts. And so eventually, I knew because he never actually went and talked to somebody and got support in that way that he should. He did try medication, but he never actually talked to someone about his mental illness. And you really do need both. Like if you are struggling, I'm of the opinion that medication has a place to get you back to neutral, but you should be talking to somebody and developing coping skills and kind of addressing
Which doesn't even have to necessarily be a doctor or psychiatrist who just someone who knows the way and has navigated through that and can show you at least which direction's out.
Because there's been plenty of people who've come to our meetings. Now I facilitate meetings as well who say, I've seen a therapist and I feel like they're not helping. It's been like 2 months, 3 months. And I'm like, well, you're probably seeing the wrong therapist. Do they know how to handle suicide loss?
Yeah.
Do they know what to do with somebody who's lost their, son or daughter that way? You really got to find the right person.
Yeah.
So yeah, after Hank passed away, I started going to these groups immediately. And I didn't realize back then that no one talked about suicide. I was like, oh, good. I've been keeping this a secret that my brother was sick. Like, you didn't know he had schizophrenia. Nobody except for family and close friends. So I kept it all internal and bottled, and my wife dealt with it, dealt with me, and that was pretty much the way it went for a long time. So going to these meetings, I was able to finally talk about it with them because you can't talk about it at the kids' martial arts school, and most people don't want to.
That's and it's not something you can, even that. Of course, you have a bond with your wife or significant other, but they also can't be your therapist.
No, they can't.
Something like that. That's going to put a heavy extra burden.
Exactly. And I know like she already had to deal with enough of that with me dealing with Hank. So I got to those meetings, and then I'd go to the meeting like once a month, and there'd be like 25, 30 people at the support group meeting. That's a lot of people to try to talk for an hour and a half about. And when you have 3, 4, 5 new people coming in every month, it's like, well, it was great to be able to listen, but I really don't want to step on this person's toes who just lost their daughter 3 weeks ago.
Right.
So I approached the executive director at the time, like, hey, can we get some more meetings going? And this was only like 8 or 9 months after the loss. And she was like, well, why don't you do it? And I was like, okay, like whatever you need, I'm here for you. Most people don't really jump into that type of thing right off the bat. But because there was a need, I felt like it was a lot easier to kind of take on that role. And you just facilitate at these meetings.
Yeah.
You're not anybody's therapist. And that's a big thing that I think a lot of facilitators at different types of support groups forget. All of a sudden, they've been doing it for a number of years, and they think that they're a therapist and they're telling everyone how to deal with their problems. Like, I'm just there to make sure that everyone talks and nobody picks up a knife or a book and goes after somebody else.
Yeah, thinks about, following suit.
Yeah, making sure that the conversation doesn't get so dark that we forget there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
And guiding the conversation, because a lot of times it is a very dark conversation.
Well, and from my experience, sometimes being honest with other peers that have gone through the same thing is exponentially more valuable than any therapist can give anyway.
I agree.
But you're
100%.
right, it has to be a balance of listening and hearing. And you're right, there's not a lot of places where you can just go, if you're not going to be the life of the party if this is what you want to talk about, when you're out with your friends.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of people, your friends might be okay for a month or two, but unfortunately, suicide grief seems to be the worst type of grief there can be.
Wow.
And so you're going to be dealing with that grief, wave after wave after wave for quite a while before you kind of get back to neutral.
Probably won't be back to completely neutral ever.
That's a very good point.
I mean, if it's a twin, that's going to be...
Yeah, the twin aspect for sure. Like, for me, I constantly, like every day, I feel his absence. Right? I mean, we
Yeah.
ran a business together. We were best friends our whole lives for 29 years. There's
Came
no
out
replacing
the womb
that.
together. I mean, every single experience. That's an interesting,
So that's funny you bring that up because I started a specialty group for just twins who lost their twin to suicide. And I opened that up to everybody, in the nation. And that's, we meet once a month. And that's been so, meaningful for me because
Wow. So there's others that lost a twin. Wow.
unfortunately,
that
it is not, I thought I was special.
wow.
Thank God
It would have never occurred to me, but it was, I guess, the numbers are, yeah.
Even the first month or two after I lost Hank, I met a twin who lost his twin the same way as me, same thing with schizophrenia. And he worked at a middle school that my wife taught at. I won't say his name because he's a pretty private person. And
Yeah.
But
no, respect that.
yeah, he contacted me because he found out what I was going through, and he was 10 years out. And talking to him was what made me feel like, man, you got to talk to someone who gets where you're at.
Because I'm sure 10 years out, he'd be the first to tell you, hey, I'm still here. It ain't over.
He was like,
just so you know,
you are so raw, you don't even know. And I'm over here thinking like, oh, thank God this will be over soon. It's like, nah.
It's hasn't been my experience, obviously, to go through that, but it's like with anything else, you could, because you could go down really quick. That could get really dark. It almost puts an insistence on that you got to figure out how to enjoy life, especially with 2 kids. You have three now.
Three now.
Three beautiful
Three
daughters.
beautiful daughters.
And keep going, keep going, keep going, keep having kids. Are awesome. But it's almost like you have to come a point, and I feel like you have, where you got to find the bright side in life. You got to figure out how to enjoy life. You got to figure out how to be the provider and protector of your family. You got to figure out how to do that, raise your kids with a happy, healthy father. And it's not easy to do when you don't have that to deal with. So,
and there's so much trauma that happens, like I found him having to deal with all of that on top of just the suicide loss. You really have to work on yourself. And there's some things that I realized over time that I was really putting on myself that I hope other survivors of suicide loss don't do, or at least they start to come to terms with. Because you can understand a lot of things rationally, but emotionally it takes a longer time for it to really hit. So that was like a big part of it for me, of finally being able to enjoy life again after the first, I'd say like 2 years was how long it took before. I mean, fake it till you make it was something me and my brother used to every class. So it was like, hey, today's been a rough day. We lost 6 students.
Do it strong. Just keep going. Yeah,
exactly. And fake it till you make it for about 2 years, trying to keep everything together before I was like, okay, I am starting to have days where I feel better, I'm starting to enjoy life again. But
and that's 2 years.
And even still, I mean, it's been almost 7. It'll be 7 in June.
Wow.
And I
did not realize that it was 7 years. I was going to ask that before. I was thinking it was at least 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
7
flies by when you're not in the thick of it, right?
You're getting old.
My knee does feel that a little bit, but yeah. So there are some truths in this situation that like really helped me figure that out that I didn't get from a therapist. Like my first therapist that I went to give perspective, fell asleep on me in the middle of exposure therapy. So exposure therapy is where you basically relive the event over and over again to drop your SUDS level, which is like a unit of distress. Level, for like what you rated. 100 being like finding your dead twin.
Yeah.
And so when he fell asleep after like the 4th session, I was like, you know what? I really don't think that this is the right therapist for me.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, but I don't know. Did anything good come from just continuing to focus on on that?
Nothing really. There was, there's EMDR therapy, which is big with veterans right now, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. That was good for dealing with the event. That helped me process it and kind of step back. But the exposure therapy didn't do shit for me, really. I mean, there was nothing. Exposure therapy did not help me at all in terms of trying to get over the event. All it did was re-traumatize me over and over again.
Yeah.
And I was already in a bad place anyway. I mean, he used a karate belt, for God's sakes. I teach karate. It's not good when that happens. But yeah, so going back to it, like finding the right therapist was good, and I did find someone who was open to helping me. But really, it was all about connecting with people And that's why I like this organization. I'm trying and get the word out there, because really connecting with other people with the loss. Because even at these support group meetings, we would go and I would talk to people, but we would go out to eat afterwards. And then we'd just kind of talk about our loved ones and things we liked about them. And we'd just remember them like you'd expect to do. We wouldn't really focus on the loss as much. And that was the part I really needed. I wanted to talk about the guy I loved who, in my mind, is still here.
Right.
So that was really helpful, was actually getting to do that. Yeah, the therapy. I mean, therapy is.
I almost, and it's just my opinion, but you could get a good therapist, but that doesn't. The right person doesn't have to be a therapist. They just, whoever they are,
I agree.
Whether it's someone from the group or a friend, family. It just, 100%. You got to find the people in your life to talk to and really help you process. But again, they got to be people that are sending you in the right direction. A therapist is, they won't have you there for life, in my opinion. Most of them, not all of them.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. Like I was lucky. I just stopped seeing the person who I did EMDR with last year, and we were basically getting together and having a grand old time every Wednesday until she was like, do you really need this anymore? I'm like, well, I kind of like you being here as a check, because I'm always worried, I'll go down the wrong path like my brother. So it's good to kind of have someone I see every week. But she was like, yeah, but you're good. Like you don't really need this anymore.
You know what?
Like,
I respect.
Here's my number for if you need it.
You do, yeah.
But like you don't really have to keep doing this. That's the type of therapist you want.
Yeah. One is send you in the right direction. That's why I did years and years of counseling, and why I have such a, I think, interesting relationship with suicide is I didn't really think about it till after that years of counseling. But for a while there, I ran our whole counseling department, and all the hot cases came to me. So I've talked to at least, I can't even count, in 12 years, at least 100, maybe 200.
Wow.
There are people who said they're suicidal at varying levels. And always, what's funny is one of the things I was told right that I'm a mandatory reporter. I'm supposed to call the cops every time someone says, like in my mind, call the cops every time someone says this, and then what? What are the cops gonna do?
Not make the situation
really?
better.
I know there's
I'll tell
nothing.
you that.
But anyway, it made me realize, because I was like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't care if that's what you told me to do or not. If you're going to send them to me, I'm going to do my best and just, and I just remember the feeling of like, I don't have the solutions, but I just kind of boiled down to this. Just wait, push it back, do it tomorrow, because so much passes in life and the seasons pass. And I just feel like I could be wrong, I could be right, I don't know, is if you can just give them some hope and to hold on for a day.
Right.
Let me at least talk to you tomorrow. Let me at least talk to you. And, it seemed to help some people. Plenty of people came back and said that it helped them. Sometimes people just need, again, like with you need someone that you can talk to, and sometimes the people that you talk to, that obviously don't need to be like the police or anything like that. It doesn't have to be mental health. It's you. You know what I mean? It's you. It's the people in your circle. Someone's hurting. It's your job to help them. It's not your job to send them to someone professional help. I look at it like I'm the first responder in my life, because if someone's hurting, talk to me,
exactly,
something like that. And I also think on suicide, I think it's one of those things. I don't know if this is shared for everyone, but I've 100,000,000% had tons of suicidal thoughts and had so I can't relate when someone says they've never had a suicidal thought. It's like, really? Like you never thought about that? Like I thought that was just a part of everyone. I could be totally wrong and on my own.
I mean, I can't say, because unfortunately I've had suicidal thoughts. I mean, how do you not when you're exposed to this this extent? I mean, but again, like, I have crazy thoughts all the time. I'm probably not going to go to Vegas this weekend, even though I want to because of the newborn. Like, wouldn't it just be great to get away for a weekend? That's not going to happen.
Your wife's not going to let you.
It pops. Yeah, exactly. It's popped up though. I mean,
it's there. It's real, and it's what loses its power is when you shed the light on it.
And that's the thing. People are so afraid to talk about it.
You hate life so bad that you want it to end. Talk about it. Talk about it with people.
And it doesn't have to be where you're, there's that whole mindset of like, well, don't talk about it because it's going to make you think about it more. That I understand. Don't beat something to death, right? Like, don't hang out with people who are going to make you feel worse and, oh yeah, life sucks. It's really bad. Don't hang like.
See, there's the key. There's the huge key. Talk about it with someone who's going to steer you in the right direction.
Exactly.
Not someone who's going to sit there and commiserate with you, and then you're just going to feel worse. Because there's always a next step you can take that's one way or the other. You're going to do something at the time you leave our presence, one way or another. So.
And those decision moments, like I remember one of the last conversations I had with my twin brother, he was like, why can't you ever just listen? Like, why do you got to talk whenever I tell you all these problems? And I was like, okay, I will just listen. And then later I regretted that because I was like, I was talking because you were saying stupid things that are not benefiting you. Your mindset was wrong. And I needed to try to convince you the way you're seeing the world is so distorted that, again, if you would just wait a little bit of time, your girlfriend will come back from the vacation. You know, like stuff like it's true though. Like he did it when she was gone on vacation. It's like you really couldn't last 3 days or 4 days without her. Like I would have hung out with you. You could have come over and hung out with the kids, but it was that distorted mindset of I'm in so much pain right now. Can't take it anymore.
The ultimate question, I guess, if you're getting to that dark place is, do you remember to reach out to someone? And are you looking around for people? Because there's people in your life that are in a dark place and you don't even realize it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect example where my kid's karate teacher, everything's fine. All of a sudden, like, wait, what? What happened? You just never know who's out there hurting.
You don't.
You know, and I actually think, you know, because I respect in a weird way when someone has the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to take matters in my own and I'm going to end it. Because it is, I mean, it's so final, but it's so, you know, I don't know what the word is. It's such a powerful thing that if we don't address it and talk about it, like as a people, man, it's there. And some people have that kind of willpower. I guess what I say, like, I have that extreme of a willpower. You know, I did I wanted to, my whole goal was to die in a blaze of glory in a shootout with the Las Vegas police when I was a kid, when I was smoking crack and drinking. I know,
which some people called that, you know, suicide by cop.
Well, no, I mean, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to live till 30. Everything was, I mean, not get off on life, but it was not going good because I was smoking crack and drinking all the time. And at one point I said, you know what, I smoked so much crack, my heart was about to explode. And I'm definitely not letting my mom watch this episode, but I thought, you know what, this is it. I'm just going out in a blaze of glory. Everything was just, and I put a huge golf ball size people, and I tried to make my heart explode as hard as I could, and it didn't. I lived, and I woke up the next day, and I thought, well, I can't even kill myself. There's something in me that would not let me even kill myself, so I might as well figure out how to enjoy life. And ever since then, when I hear someone suicidal, I think, man, if they could just get to that point, if you could just get to that point where they just believe I can't die, so I might as well figure out how to enjoy it. But man, unfortunately, sometimes people just don't end up getting across that.
And like my brother, he was dealing with voices for like 9 years, and people talk about like, hey, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Well, for him, he'd only been taking medications and doing things that seemed to make this problem worse. The more medications he took, the more side effects he would get. He'd get off the medications because of the side effects. The voices would get worse. He was so much worse in 2017 when he died than when he started with his mental illness in 2008. He had 2 voices, and then yo-yoing on and off of all these antipsychotics and trying to get back to neutral. And for whatever reason, because we couldn't figure out what's the deal with schizophrenia, you know, he was dealing with 15, 20 voices in his head.
It doesn't surprise me that the medication doesn't work. I mean, I don't, everyone's different, but it's kind of...
You know, maybe if he
I find very few cases where they say, oh, I started taking this, and boom, everything was better.
If you get on something... Like I got on medication after he died, after a year. I said, if I ever stay in bed because I've got the 2 kids 2 days in a row, I'll get on an antidepressant. And the day after my birthday, my wife gave me this giant container with a bunch of memories that she collected from all my friends and family. And she gave it to me at the end of the night. And for 3.5 hours, like a dumbass, I went through it and I read every single memory. And for 2 days, I could not get out of bed. And I was like, all right, you know what? Like that was kind of my own problem. But again, I did that for a short period of time because I needed to learn a bunch of new skills for dealing with this new level of trauma and all these emotional issues that I'd now developed that were all new to me. But again, like once I got the skills, I didn't stay on the medication because it really wasn't going to work forever. Your body creates homeostasis and it gets used to it. And then you're going to be right back to where you were.
That's well said, and I would hope no medication they're put you on is just you're going to be on this forever. Which now that I think about it, why would it not be? They don't put it on with an end in mind. They don't say here take these for 90 days.
Yeah,
they take it till.
And there really should be. It should be an evaluation period after 90 days and be like, okay, how are you doing? What new ways have you developed, or what skills, or who have you talked to kind of make things move in the right direction? But no, it's not like that.
And see, I love your sharing this because it's real world experience. It's your experience. So you don't have to listen to all the experts and all that, because no, I experienced that. So I know that, I've had my experiences with different medications myself where I know it's like, regardless what they say, no. Learn to meditate. I mean, find other ways besides medication.
I mean, people disagree with me, and even in this organization, right? I mean, some people are like, if I just got off my medication, I'd be in a worse place.
That's a story they're telling themselves.
But I tell them like, hey, Wim Hof has the ice baths. That's what I do. I'm like, have you tried an ice bath? Have you tried doing that for a week? Like, it works. Like, you will feel different. It really does.
See, that is. I think that's in life. It's not what happens to you; it's how you respond to it. As gnarly as that is, that could really be I mean, I'm sure this happens to a lot of people, and it's the end for them too. They'd never come out of it, and never end up getting involved and looking to help other people. Right. Because I think a lot of ways this whole Indestructible Joys came from me, is birthed from just my own anxiety and pain and just hate of the world and just complete uncomfortability in my own skin. And I started thinking, how do you become, that's why I got in religion. I just wanted peace. When you start to do it long enough, if you keep pointing in the right direction, you do find things that work. You find some things, helping others. I'm convinced what you're doing, helping others, will probably keep your level of happiness at a good level more than anything else you're doing.
I agree.
You boil it down, service to others.
Because I was getting so much meaning out of helping my twin brother. And then when he was all of a sudden gone, that was it. I felt so miserable because that was for so much purpose. Even with the wife and kids, that was where I was generating most of my purpose. Was, hey, it's been a rough day. School didn't make as much money, whatever. But hey, at least Hank kept going another day. As soon as that was gone, I needed to replace that. And so helping other people who've lost someone to suicide and trying to make sure that there's another, there's people out there you can talk to. That has definitely helped me out a lot.
And you've even put on a couple comedy shows.
Yeah, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh at this.
I actually was at one of them. By the way, you have one on the 23rd?
No, 23rd we're actually doing a concert. We're doing a concert at Aztec Brewery.
Okay, I did see.
I'm doing
I saw
everything.
it. I'm out of town, and I thought in one of these comedy ones when you're doing, I'll jump back on.
If you want to jump on, you can have 5 minutes for sure. I would love to have you come back out and do some stand-up. That would be great.
I always thought that was the most unique, and like it just didn't calculate how that was the response to it, but it makes sense, and the events were great.
You have to laugh.
And was one of the comedians. Your thing was like one of the best comedians I think I've ever seen. I can't.
Oh
remember
yeah, Andrew Norelli probably.
Yeah,
he's a great guy too, and he knows because he's had his. I don't know if there's a comedian alive who doesn't have some sort of depression, anxiety, mental health challenges.
Trauma is what this is going to sound weird and probably not the way you'd want it to be, but. And I could be wrong in anything I say. Let me just throw a disclaimer out there for life. I could always be wrong. I think we came here in this life for the hard shit, for the stuff. Because think about it. Will we come to just be Now, I don't want it always that hard. God or whoever, don't have to throw it hard.
That sounds like a challenge.
But no, I'm not challenging the universe or anyone. Allah, God, you name it. The idea that we'd come here and just be in a fluffy nest, it wouldn't work. We don't want to. Now, there's degrees of how hard we're going to have it, but once you realize maybe we came here just for that, just to get good at that and still be happy somehow. Man, you win if you can still enjoy your life regardless how gnarly it is and gets. Because there is still, what's wrong is always there, but what's right is too. And there is still, you got an abundance of blessings with your business mindset, wife, kids, beautiful wife, beautiful kids. But
it's funny how people still get bogged down by one thing. I mean, I get it. It is a big deal, but if you let one thing dictate,
it can't be your only deal.
It can't be. You got to find all of the gratitude and all the happiness in all aspects of your life. You really do.
So my question for you, two things. I'm going to ask you two questions. Where would you go? Where would you send someone to talk to if they were suicidal? If they were really like, you know what, I am serious about it.
If they were suicidal, I would definitely have them reach out see, the thing is you can't even trust that hotline, right? You can call the hotline and you have to hang up and call back and get a different person because you never know who you're going to get when you call these people, right? I would definitely talk to somebody who loves you and be completely 100% honest about how you feel. if you don't have anyone you feel like in your life like that, you can reach out to the hotline, but it would be so much better if you found someone you loved and you actually said, here's exactly what's going on with me. Because people are blindsided by this all the time. And if they actually knew how much that they were loved and cared about, and the ripple effect of them ending their lives, the amount of damage that they're going to do far outweighs how much good they think they're going to do by not being a burden anymore. So, I mean, I wish I could say, hey, go to this organization or go to this place. There really isn't one that 100% of the time we're all human.
I think you landed on it, though. You got to find someone that loves you, that legit wants your best, and be totally honest with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can't be your spouse. That can't be even someone in close. They can be a little outside your circle, but someone you can, because otherwise you can't be completely honest if you're sometimes too close.
And you need someone who can be completely honest. Like Hank's note that he left said, Will, thank you for being the most loving, kind, supportive brother. I memorized all those things, all the good points.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for you, I would have killed myself a long time ago. Like reading that for a long time bothered me, and it shouldn't have. Like in reality, like showing him how much I cared and how much I loved him kept him around. Yeah. And if he was going to do it, if it was a jar that I was trying to empty, filled with water, and I was fighting against whatever life was throwing at Hank, but I was able to keep him around for a couple more years, like that's great to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of people forget that with suicide loss. So find the people who are taking out from that giant jar. Those are the people that you want to be honest with about how you're feeling, and let them know so they can actually get you at least a little bit of help and support.
Well, my advice, having not gone through this, but just from seeing from people, is you're only as sick as your secrets. You got to find somebody, whether it's a line, whether it's go to some kind of meeting, or whether it's family, someone. But you've got to find someone. You can't keep that stuff inside. That's my opinion.
I agree.
Because those are the ones I worry about. Is because almost all the suicides that I've come across, the actual suicides, I've also done a lot of funerals for suicides, is people didn't see it coming.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, we really knew this was coming. There was some when you dug that kind of did, but they didn't know it was coming right then.
Well, and no one ever thinks that it's actually going to happen. Like Hank had been suicidal, but deep down, I never thought it would actually happen. Otherwise, I never would have let him out of my sight. Right. I always thought on some level that it wasn't actually truly possible for him to do this. So, and there was so many secrets he had that he wouldn't tell anyone about. Like he wouldn't be open about these weird OCD thoughts that he had. He wouldn't be open about the voices. He was afraid of liability for the business if people knew he was schizophrenic.
And if you're out there and this is you, because I know that's been me, until I get the thoughts out and you realize the people you share it with, sometimes they're like, yeah, that's pretty common. So I would say get that shit out. Because once it's exposed to light, it loses its power. You can.
And your sense of identity is so thrown off when you're lying to everyone about what's going on the inside.
Yeah.
That's not good for you.
So second question, where would you send someone if they lost someone? I mean, I just, every time someone tells me suicidal, the first thing that comes to my mind is I have no words that can make it better. And that always used to drive me crazy. Where would you send someone though?
If they lost someone, I would send them to soslsd.org, and I would reach out, and we'll immediately get back to you, and you'll join our mailing list, and you'll have a support group that you can attend within less than a week, whether on Zoom or in person, and you'll be able to meet other survivors and get to talk to someone. And then we have a warm line as well. So it's not a hotline, but you can call it, and if we don't answer, we'll get back to you, and we'll make sure that you at least have a chance to talk to somebody, because, I mean, if, God forbid, we're the first person you talk to, but that has been the case where you have no idea and you just type in, lost someone, suicide San Diego, and we're the ones who pop up. I mean, there are bigger organizations, but if you're local, and even if you're not local because of Zoom and COVID, we have people reach out to us all the time from across the nation.
Well, it's like anything. Find some.
You got to find a group of people who
understand. What's that one called again? I'm sure we'll put the...
Survivors of Suicide Loss, San Diego, and it's soslsd.org.
soslsd.org.
Yeah.
Well, I would say to you, whoever you are listening, that you freaking matter so much more than you know you do. If you knew the pain you were going to cause, I think you would rethink and run it back. And if someone needs to hear that, you matter so much as someone that if you pull yourself out, you're gonna, because I don't think he meant to cause you this much pain.
I
know he
thought,
didn't. I know he didn't. He didn't think that through. He didn't really think through what this was going to cause.
I will say that I don't know where the tipping point is, but at a certain point, the person who ends their life is not the person that you love. So if there is someone listening who lost someone to suicide, I would argue that the person that did end their life is just like any disease. That is not actually the person who cared about you. Because my twin brother knew how much, at least in his right mind, he was going to hurt me.
Right.
He knew I was going to suffer for the rest of my life losing him. But whoever ended up finally making that decision and doing what he did, like that was not my twin brother in my eyes.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
But there's a tipping point, just like you talked about, with if you don't get enough support, if you don't talk to enough people. Like I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
But you got to make sure you're actually expressing all this stuff so that you can find the help that you need before you kind of tip over, you know?
And then once it gets to a dark point where you're just not going to tell anyone anymore, it seems like it's kind of...
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of it right there.
Yeah, well, I wish I had a word, a sentence, a phrase, a paragraph, or something that could just make it all better and run it all back. Or if I could say something that would make a difference, I would. It just, we're all doing this human experience. I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to me. This was a tough one for me to do, so I can't imagine, you're just kind of living this life.
Well, like you said, I find so much meaning that if I could stop one person or help one person, that makes it all worth it.
That is so matters. Say it again. You matter out there. And you know what? That's such a great point. It's not the person who you love that kills himself, because I've seen that with addiction too. I've seen people do stuff and overdose on fentanyl. And I think I saw the state they were in. That wasn't them. That wasn't them. You lose the battle to the darkness, whether it's mental illness, drugs, or whatever. I think, number one, if you stop fighting, you lose. But also, if you're not finding the right people to help equip you to battle it and be, whether it's regardless what it is, if you're not finding the right groups, the right people. So my 2 cents worth is reach out, find someone.
Yes.
Call someone.
Never give up is my attitude. Like never lose hope. That's why we named our third kid Hope.
Hope.
Because we always want to make sure no matter what, at the end of the day, you can't give up hope.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking time, being on the show. I appreciate what you do. Look forward to more and more talks on these.
Hey, thank you for having me. This was great.
Training. You can also catch him at the West Coast Martial Arts. Badass Kempo Karate School.
Come and train. We do everything. Thanks to Tommy. We train everything there. So come check it out sometime.
Thanks, brother.
Yep, of course.